Gaming is for friends.
I thought this music was so epic.
We all like talking about gaming.
The only thing that I disliked about the old game.
There are so many different conversations started by gaming.
Oh, I forgot I have you.
This could be anything.
Okay, walk in that green goo. Oh, that's a no.
Anything gaming. Hi, and welcome to Anything Gaming, the podcast where anything can happen. We're on episode 19, and it's been a fun week of gaming as usual. I've got Woody here with me to talk more gaming nonsense. What have you got this week, mate?
I got quite a bit, actually. Kind of went on a little bit of a shopping spree, admittedly. You know, them Steam sales, they always get you. Actually, this one wasn't a sale. I have a new favorite game.
What?
Mainly because I beat RoboCop, so, you know, that's kind of in the rear view now. I hope I pronounce it right. I don't know if I should call it Trepang 2 or Trepang Squared.
Oh.
No one in the game so far has said the word, so I don't know exactly how to pronounce the game, like actual game itself. I don't know if I call it an indie game because it's got a lot of polish for an indie game, but I guess only 5 people developed it. But it's in the style of Fear. If you remember the old Fear series, the first-person shooter, which like time slowed down when you press a button, like Max Payne style.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
I mean? Yeah, and so far I've been loving it. It's been a blast. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, that's been my main go-to. Also, another game I've been playing too. It's more retro. It's a newer, but it's also more retro based. I've been playing a lot of Dusk. It's in this vein of Quake. Simple. It's a little mindless, but it's been a fun diversion. Actually, I got to bring this up too. I did beat a video game in one night the other night. My niece was over, and you know she's 12 years old, so I can't really be like, all right, now we're playing, you know, GTA or something like that. And
was it Bluey?
It was Bluey. Yes. How did you have to say that? Yeah. Oh
yes.
Man. I'm not gonna. It's almost weird. Kind of a Paper Mario feel to it.
Okay.
Or maybe the South Park games, because graphically, to me at least, it looks like an episode of Bluey. The only Bluey I've ever been exposed to is if I go to my friend's house and his kid Colt loves Bluey. Gonna Bluey, you know, dog, all that stuff. So that's how I know the show. It looks like an episode of Bluey.
Well, that was written over here, that whole Bluey thing, but they've also, you know, there's like the hardware store that's in Bluey. They've transformed some of the stores over here into Bluey stores.
That's awesome.
The craziest thing was at Christmas time, they had like a Bluey pageantry thing set up in the main shopping center here, and there was people lined up for like kilometers or miles to go and see it. It was so busy. I was going to take my kids, and I ended up taking them Boxing Day because it was easier to see. But
yeah. Every couple years, a blue dog. You know, from Huckleberry Hound in the 60s, you know, a blue dog comes just to be the icon. And yeah, but seriously, back to the game though, it was fine. You know, it was very simple. It's the kind of game you play with your 12-year-old niece, or younger. But yeah, it was fun, and it got me some achievements on my Xbox. So yeah,
is it? Well, apparently there's a whole people, like a lot of people devoted towards Peppa Pig, the game on Xbox, because you're meant to be able to get all the achievements in like 2 hours or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, so there's all these Xbox fans that are like, you just got to play this game because you can just platinum it like in 2 hours. It's like the best achievement horse game in the Xbox universe. So that's next for you on the list.
Yeah, I remember, like, me and my friend, actually, the father of the child that watches Bluey, about, like, way back in the day when the Xbox 360 first came out, me and him would, like, hunt achievements. If there was a game out there that, you know, wasn't that much of a slog, and you could get a decent number of achievement points from that game in a short amount of time, we would, like, gamefly them, you know, just let each other borrow them, get them through. And it was actually a game, Avatar: The Last Airbender. It was based off that. Just the first area alone you can get all the achievements in the game, of which there are 5.
Well, I think
And
there's.
each one is 200 points.
I think Peppa Pig's got about 10 or 20 or something. It's not a whole lot, but it's the new version of that. That's the game that everyone's just achievement whoring themselves to.
I mean, to be fair, it makes me play a lot of games, at least back in the day. Now I really don't. Like, the numbers are high up enough that's like, yeah, I've played a couple games. But back in the day, yeah, like, I would play some real, like, stinkers if it would just, like, get me that many achievement points. But I also discovered a lot of fun games by trying to get those achievement points. I actually think that's the reason why I play Condemned.
Ah, yeah.
Like, I remember the achievements in Condemned being relatively easy to get, but that was during the dark days when achievements weren't stackable. Which really, it made you stretch out more of your game, but that sucked.
Although there was a point when DLC became so popular that it destroyed achievements for me. It was a point like, so I used to be such an achievement whore. I'd try and platinum all these games, right? But then DLC would come out, and all of a sudden you would have all these achievements you couldn't get unless you bought the DLC. So it would say something like you'd only got 50% of the game's achievements, but realistically you'd got 100% of that game's achievements, just not the DLC. And then I'm just like, oh, well, now you're making me pay to achieve, and I'm out, you know?
Yeah, I remember that. In memory, if anyone in the comments wants to correct me on this, for consoles at least, I think the first game with DLC achievements that I remembered vividly was Elder Scrolls, The Shivering Isles DLC. Actually, I think maybe some DLC for that before that actually had achievement points to it. But I do know Shivering Isles had achievements.
Yeah, but it just annoyed me to no end. You'd start with, you know, you could finish the main game and then you'd have to buy the rest of the game just to get the achievements, and it would show up on your record, and it ruined achievements to me. So
yeah, plus I mean, like, originally it's like every game had 1,000 achievement points, but if you were like, you know, an Xbox Live Arcade game, it was only like 200 or 250. I forget the actual number, and that was it. You know, that's all you get. And now you look at it and it's like, yes, 2,700 achievement points. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't handle all that.
Who actually platinums games nowadays? That's what I want to know.
I have to date 3 platinum
besides Peppa Pig.
Yeah. Well, that's on. You don't get platinums on the Xbox, but yeah. Duke Nukem 3D World Tour, Fallout 3, and Saints Row 3. I've platinum, but like going back to what you said, because of the DLC for Fallout 3 and Saints Row 3, I don't have all the achievement points for them. I got the platinum trophy because I got all the in-game stuff, but I didn't get all the DLC stuff.
And it makes you feel kind of like cheap, or like you can't afford to play this game properly because you didn't get.
Do I deserve this platinum trophy? Really, I don't know.
No.
Although I got to see now if Bluey is on the PS5 and try to get the platinum for that. I think I can.
You bought it on PS5?
Well, I was playing the Game Pass version.
Oh, yeah.
It was on Game Pass.
Yeah.
Like, we were, you know, that's what we did. You know, it's like, hey, let's see what games are on here. We'll play some of those. Because Uncle Bill forgot to charge the Switch controller, so we're not doing Mario Kart right now. And then Bluey was there to save the day.
What about the other one, Foam Stars? Did you give her a go of that, or?
No. She's not like fast-paced games like that. She's no go with that. She's more methodical type of gamer.
Fair enough. Yep. Okay. So, if you've seen the card for this live stream, I started off with a bit of a controversial subject of why remakes and remasters are a bad thing. What side of the fence are you on for this, for gaming?
Actually, yeah, I gotta mention this. I don't like the thumbnail because, you know, it's definitely a way to get the point across, but I just want to let everyone know right now, I'm not completely on board hating remakes. I understand not liking the concept Because it's the old adage of we don't have enough ideas, we're out of stories. That's recycle really. But I'm not gonna lie, all the remakes, and I mean the remakes I've played so far, I haven't played a bad one. Probably the worst remake I've played so far is Final Fantasy VII, and even that's good. Of all the remakes I played, it's the one I haven't actually gone through. But it's still a competent game. The controls are fine. It plays well. Voice acting, story. I actually like how the story embellishes on some characters. But it's good. It's not bad. It's not a disgrace or anything to the original game. I don't think. So I haven't really seen. Maybe if anyone wants to correct me, I don't really know a bad remake.
Yeah, well, I'm on team no more remakes. I'm gonna put my line in the sand right now. I'm with you. There are a lot of good remakes, and some games I've only just started playing because they've remade them, and so I get that point. But where I don't like it is that a remake comes out and it's still a full price game, but it didn't take them a whole studio worth of people to make this game again. They've kind of just touched some stuff up and released a nice competent game, like you say. So we're all going, hey, why are there so many people getting laid off in the gaming industry at the moment? There's a lot of people losing their jobs, and that's because we don't need as many people to make remakes. We don't need as many people. If we make new games, we'll need more people. And those are untested, untried ideas that people are not willing to go and purchase maybe, or then maybe that it's going to supersede some of these remakes, but it's a risk that companies now aren't going to willing to take.
I didn't think of it like that, and you are correct. But at the same time, I can't imagine the team for Final Fantasy VII Remake just being like, all right, let's take all the assets. They really the only thing they can take. I wouldn't even say they take the story because there's just so many story changes now. I don't want to ruin any spoilers for anyone, and it does follow the basic path. But there's enough that clearly they had new writers on. You know what I mean? Really, the only part that they can really recycle competently is probably character design, design of everything. Really, just touch it up for the monographics, and that's it. But then I'll play a game like Dead Space, where I'm sure that had a full studio developing the remake. But there's some parts of that game that are just, look beautiful, look way better than the original, but still look like the original. And of course, that really only counts for the remakes. I'm not going to count Metroid Prime Remastered or the Ghostbusters Remastered. Any game that just upreses it for the next console, something like that, because that's still the original game in my mind.
Well, someone's gone through and done a little bit of work to it. For example, if you go Skyward Sword with Zelda there, they've changed the controls when they've upped. So someone's had to go through and go, hey, how are we going to change the controls? And I think they've changed a few of the cutscenes and things like that too in that game, just a little bit, making you available to skip them or stuff like that you weren't able to potentially in the other one. But yeah, I'm just thinking the other part where I'd like to argue in the defense here is, have you seen what's happened to the movie industry? How bad the movie industry has got with their movies are just going worse and worse downhill because we don't have anything original or new. So they'll just remake everything. And that's what the games industry is becoming. And I'm just really worried about the future of the game industry if we keep remaking things.
Well, let's also be fair here. In terms of ideas and stuff, how deep is the well? I'm sure any game out there, just pick any game out of random. Right now, pick a game. Any game coming out lately, the last 2-3 years.
New or remade? Are we going for new or
New.
remade? New. What's a new game that I've just? Alan Wake 2.
Okay, well, first off, that's a sequel. But even if that wasn't a sequel, it's still a third-person game.
Mm-hmm.
Horror elements. I mean, you can go back to the '90s and play Alone in the Dark on PC. It's stuff like that. So on a night, I'm not really like, as far as actual storyline. Yeah, that's cribbing, that's remaking. But I'm never gonna really be like, well, there's no new ideas for games or even movies. There are plenty of ideas for games and movies. It's just that you gotta adapt it in a way that is different from everything else, which is tough to do. And with today's restrictions, it gets a lot tougher. But I think anyone can write a damsel in distress, a man against nature, a whatever the trope is, and pump it up enough to hold your interest in a movie or even a game.
Yeah, I suppose there's that part about it. I just want there to be more creativity. Like, okay, especially in the cozy puzzles space. Like, that's where I like the things that I like. I think if you're going with first person shooters and that, you can basically have 3 different types of guns, or 100 different guns. You could have as many guns as you want, but it's really you're just shooting at something or someone, But we seem to kind of, I think there's a whole lot of games that haven't been created because, especially puzzle or cozy type games, that people are like scared to make them because they don't know if people are going to be interested in that kind of thing. There's only just starting to be a few games now that come out about mental health and things like that are probably taboo subjects sometimes, or taboo in the way that they could be hard to sell to the masses.
I mean, like, any game that can help one's mental health is, I think is a great thing. One game I always hear about that actually is Stardew Valley. I heard it's a wonderful game to calm you down. Like, if you're anxious in life, and it just bogs you down, play stuff. This is what I've heard. I've never played the game.
You've never played it?
Yeah, I'm not that anxious. Well, at least I try not to be.
No, but it's kind. Have you ever played Animal Crossing?
Briefly, yes, but that was like back in the day. I rented it on GameCube. There was a bit of a fuss even back in the day, the first Animal Crossing. Plus, I heard there were like old games on there, and this was before Virtual Console, so I was like, ooh, then I'll try to get that. And yeah, it was cute. I enjoyed it. It's just I always thought of it as just a sim game, like or sim-ish.
But well, kind of, but not. It's more about what the characters are going through. It's I don't know. It is simish, I guess, but to me, it's more about it's a farming kind of simulator more so than a sim. I don't know. Do you farm in sim games? I've never played a sim game for a long time.
Well, okay, so for Sim City, for example, at least the version I play, not necessarily farms, but there's parkland you can make, clear away. Pretty much one thing, I barely touched SimCity 2000 above, so I'm just thinking the original Maxis version. There's residential, commercial, and industrial areas you can build.
Yeah.
There's not really too much as far as like farm, like grazing, because you're building a city. You know what I mean? So it's all buildings and concrete and driving around. You can build a zoo eventually.
Yeah. I don't know, but like I'm just saying, there's a lot of simulation games, but that kind of weird real life imitating or art imitating real life type thing with some twists on it is something we don't seem to do enough of. And another genre, tower defense games. My son really likes that Bloons tower defense. Have you ever played that one?
I've not played Balloons yet, not for tower defense.
It's
honestly,
Bloons, Bloon.
Oh.
Yeah, Bloons. It's like a super popular tower defense game that's got its own little following on YouTube and stuff like that. The thing is, though, that there's no other tower defense games seem to have just disappeared. Like, because I was like, oh, maybe he'll like a different tower defense game. and I've been searching tower defense games, and there's a couple of random ones, but no high quality tower defense games have come out in the last probably 5 years.
Where I ended with tower, and I don't even know if you could call it a tower defense game, but I consider enough. It's a defense game. Plants vs Zombies.
Oh yeah, that's definitely tower defense.
Yeah, I played that on end. Garden Warfare was all right, but Garden Warfare was weird. You know, it was.
That's the one where you're running around and you shoot.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not so much a tower defense; it's more of a Call of Duty kind of, or
but even I wouldn't even call it Call of Duty. Although, yeah, you can fight. You still set up defenses and stuff, but it just changed the entire mechanic of the game.
Yeah,
decent, but didn't really touch the original. And yeah, I mean, that was honestly the last tower defense game that really grabbed me. You know, I played a couple here and there after that, but I played through Plants vs. Zombies. As much as you can, yeah.
Yeah, no, fair enough. But I feel like we need some more of that kind of stuff coming back into the world of just those different games. We've seemed to have like shooters, RPGs, and then even story games. Everything's going to this online, like you have to log in to play the game for who knows what reason. And just those single story games that have gone like way, they're not making nearly enough of them. I finish a game and I have to wait so many more months now to find a new game. I remember I used to finish a game and I'd be like, hey, I can go and buy this or this game now. Nowadays I'm like, what's interesting to play?
Speaking of genre, one genre I really hope comes back sometime is rhythm games. I miss that. I miss that so much. And I heard what happened to Harmonix. They're being absorbed by Fortnite of all things.
Oh, Fortnite got hacked apparently.
Ooh, really?
Ooh. Yeah. So
that's not good.
No, so it might be a month before you can play it. Bad joke.
Shit.
Boom. Bad.
Yeah,
No. Sorry.
I do have a character made in Fortnite. I did play it briefly, so. But no, seriously, that on a serious note, that does suck. You know, I hope no one's like stuff really got hacked. You know, I believe a few episodes back, one of the early episodes, we actually touched on the big Sony hack of back in like 2011.
Oh yeah, so Sony used to be renowned for, especially around Christmas time. I used to be like dreading around the Christmas holidays. Is Sony would always get hacked almost every year when it first started up their PlayStation network. I don't know why. Like, what are these people? They're obviously not gamers that are hacking this. Like, surely.
No, right. It's just
not needed.
Why can't you find some like evil soul? Like, yeah, I'm sure there's like Sony's not the best corporation ever, but can't you like just like erase like hack something to erase people's credit card debt or something, or student loan payments or something? You know, do something like that.
Do something
if you have the power to hack.
Yeah.
Okay,
so now we're at like a hacking helpline.
No, this is not Hack the Planet. All right, this is the farthest thing from Hack the Planet. So,
yeah.
Please tell me you've seen Hackers.
Okay, I'm worried. Well, let's leave this movie in. Let's move back.
If anyone's seen Hackers, leave some comments below. Leave some hacker-related comments.
Yeah. So I was going. Let's summarize this then with a bit of. I think a good remake every now and then. I like, you know what I do like when I'm going to talk about remakes, when they remake something that's really, really, really old, like potentially, for example, the first Mario. It was kind of nice to see them re-envision them worlds in like proper 2D sprites instead of the. Like I liked that. Like 20 years between a remake is okay for me. Like, is there a amount of years that you think before we should be allowing remakes?
Okay, now we're just talking straight remakes, right?
Remaster, remake, what do you want to call it?
I think of like take up. You're just talking to Mario. Take Super Mario Brothers 3 for example. The North American release over here was 1990. But I want to say Mario All Stars was only about, someone correct me if I'm wrong, 2 years later, maybe 3. So that's only 2 years between. But that's just the value of remake from 8-bit to 16-bit. Mileage might vary there. Probably a better example of like a graphic gap, if you will, would be the Resident Evil remake. Resident Evil 1 came out in '97.
Yeah.
For the PlayStation 1, Sega Saturn, PC, what have you. The GameCube remake would come out in 2004, which was a 7-year difference.
That's not too bad. I think, I'm looking for more like the 10-year ones. That's where I like it.
Resident Evil 2 came out in 1998, and Resident Evil 2 remake came out in 2019.
Yes,
like a full 21 years.
That there I can deal with that because they've had to remake the whole game to do that. Also, I would say like another bad example of why did we have to remake The Last of Us or remaster The Last of Us? That one.
I'm kind of disappointed in a lot of people. I'm hearing so many people complain. Oh, they just remastered it for PlayStation 5. I knew they were gonna do it. Like I found it kind of odd that like when Last of Us Part 2 when either was coming out or announced, the PlayStation 5 was already in existence. It was announced. It was happening. So I even told myself, I'm just not gonna play it. I'll just wait till it got remastered. Admittedly, it took a lot longer than I thought it would, but it makes complete sense now when you think of the TV show. But so I held up on that. I can't really I haven't played the remastered Part 1 either. I've only played the original. But something along that end, and for what, 70 American? That ain't right. That should be a lot lower. You're not rebuilding the game from the ground up. That one's a lot. That's a lot even closer than Dead Space in its remake. You know what I mean?
Well, all they did there is just change their settings and then hit publish, and then they printed out 1 million copies. That's just bullshit.
And remasters shouldn't be the full price. I mean, maybe there's a certain situation. Maybe you could justify it with Metroid Prime, only because now you could say, "Hey, now it's portable." But something close like Last of Us, nah.
Well, I remember when the PlayStation 4 games were getting upscaled and you had to pay that extra $15 or something to upscale it to a PlayStation 5 game. That was another rubbish thing that they did.
And it was like complete. I remember I hooked up my PS5, and the first PS4 game I tried on it was Doom Eternal.
Yeah.
And you can upgrade to the PS5 version for free. Why not? I threw it on. It was great. It looked beautiful, by the way.
Yeah.
A couple days later, I put in Tony Hawk 1 and 2, and $10. What?
No, I'll just play the PS4 version. It looks fine,
I know. I was so mad I went to play the PS1 version, just to be like, no. All right, we're going in this direction instead. Learn not to be greedy.
Okay, so final question on this remastering before we move on to something else. If you get a game potentially like Pac-Man, I'll use that as an example, and that was a 2D game that you just play, and then you turn it into a 3D game that you're actually in the maze and you're running around, is that a remake or a reimagined game?
I would say reimagined because now it's a different dimension. The mere fact that you're going that way now, by law of physics, changes everything. So I would definitely, but it has to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You need to have complete up, down, left, right, forward, backward. If you're missing one of those things, then it'd probably be closer to what you would say. More, it would just be a remake in that way because you're not really adding anything.
Can you think of any reimagined games off the top? I can't think of any at the moment.
I mean, I wouldn't call it not remakes, but that's definitely sequelitis. I can't tell you how many sequels of games I played that, were strictly a 2D game, 2D game, 2D game. Now we're 3D. Some are classics. Some are incredible, like Mario and Zelda.
GTA.
GTA, good example.
Yeah.
Some, like Bubsy, like Earthworm Jim, makes you realize maybe they should have stayed in their lane. Like the translation does not hit everyone well. Actually, there's some games that I prefer. I might get some anger here, but I was never a huge fan of the 2D Prince of Persia games, but I love the 3D ones.
Yeah.
I love the 3D ones are great. I
The
can never
2D
really get
one, you know what I liked about the 2D ones, and I'll go into defense with that, is that they were actually 2.5D, so they kind of they were the first games to really give you that depth in the 2D space, which was really cool. The other part about them that was really, really cool was they were very simplified graphics. I think that was just so they could run on but it kind of was like these really empty, I guess these tombs that you were running through, but they were just simple and nice and kind of. I just liked the way it was designed back then, and it was more of a Metrovania type of game if you consider it like that. Where when they remake it or reimagined it, then it became more of an open world, more like a platformer type game, where before it was definitely more Metrovania, even though that wasn't a thing back then. But yeah, because I don't think Metroid was Super Metroid out back then.
What year did Prince of Persia come out?
I do not know. I'm not
it must have been like at the very least the first Metroid.
Yeah,
must have been out by then. There's a couple proto Metroidvania games even that predate
Prince
Metroid.
of Persia was 1989.
Yes, Metroid was I want to say that no, Metroid 2 came out later, but Metroid 1 was out by then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a good one for
Metroid. I know was 94. I know Super Metroid's 94 because I just did a speed run of Super Metroid not too long, and it's 1994 Nintendo on the credit and the opening screen. So I know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, let's move along. Any news that's grabbed you in the world of games lately?
Well, you touched on this on the remake debate, but man, all these layoffs, dude. Like just looking at them, it's humbling. Like it makes you really feel like there's a lot of them going around, like across the board. You know, it seems like no company is safe. Even the successful ones are cutting a lot of people.
Well, yes. I wonder if AI is starting to play a part in this. I think remakes are starting to play a part in this, but I also think people are working out different ways to do things as well. Like, you know, like if you could code and then you can go, hey, here's rewrite this ChatGPT or whatever, and then all of a sudden it spits out some code. Why do we need 3 people to make as much code now? We just got one guy.
No, yeah, I mean it's troubling to be sure. Hopefully there's oh no, I'm radioactive over here. It tugs at the heart. I don't like seeing anyone lose their job. I've been laid off. I know the feeling. You know, I think a lot of people have had that time where they just get cut. So I definitely hope that what I really hope is that a lot of these laid off people can start up their own thing. You know, of course that requires money and investment. So hopefully a lot of them find themselves back on their feet.
Well, also these layoffs come about when, say, Xbox buys Activision, and then they go, well, we don't need 7 managers now. We only need this one manager overseeing that branch. So let's just get rid of a top. Maybe they've cut the top of the tree off. I mean, you'd like to hope that's the way that this is happening, but maybe it's not just all the little guys. Maybe it's some of the bigger guys too that they didn't have to. They've just had too many overheads in the company.
No, there's just a lot of unrest, really.
Yeah.
But you just really don't know what the future holds. And I gotta say, a lot of it is, at the end of the day, some of these games, some of these very hyped, very marketed, lots of money, lots of people working on these games, just aren't working out. We got to go. Like, as much as I did like Starfield, and I do like Starfield, it wasn't that big blockbuster hit that it needed to be. Suicide Squad, drowning as we speak. You know what I mean? Like, and these were games that had people, time, years, things at stake going to make them, and swing at a big miss.
Yeah, I
I'm not taking anything away from the game value themselves. Wonderful games. Even Suicide Squad has some of its fans saying it's a well competent game. Sure, they're lovely games, but at the end of the day, they got to make money.
Yeah. Well, is it the live action internet thing that's making these games bad too? Are we trying to take too much control? Are we taking the fun out of games by turning them into like a big marketing campaign? Remember when we used to have a game, the game was designed around being a fun game that people wanted to play, and then some like person at, let's say EA, for example, decided, hey, we could make more money from this fun game if we just gave you 3/4 of the game and sold you the last part of the game later on. So are they trying to make too much money out of games now by doing all these add-ons and changing the way that the game is, instead of just thinking about making a fun, good game? This live service and all that kind of stuff.
It's weird though, because part of me, like, the obvious answer is yes, but at the same time, now I don't own a business, much less a game, like, a game development company or a publisher. But I just don't see how straying from making a game that's really good, smart and playable and makes you come back for more. I don't see how that won't make you money. I understand there's a lot of games like that don't make a lot of money. And I also understand that there are a lot of popular games that everyone buys that are horrible. But if you look at the ratio, like the games that have sold really, really, really well in history have been really, really, really good. And they've been fun, and they're the kind of games you want to go back to. They're the kind of games you talk about years from now. They're the kind of games that you drill into your kids, even if they don't want to play it, because they're that good, and they sold a lot of money. They made a lot of people rich. So while I could see people go into live action, all that, to try to squeeze out some money, wouldn't it just be easier and more profitable just to have a organic experience?
A good game?
Yeah, like, that might work.
Wow.
I think it'll work a lot better than the live service stuff, or like the non-stop marketing and, despiritualization. God, I hope that's a word, of the video game industry.
When I think back to the probably some of the biggest games of the last couple of years, The Last of Us, Mario Wonder, a lot of Nintendo games are probably in that list. And a lot of them do not go... the games all have in common that they're not trying to push too much extra onto you. Yeah, there's some extra things you can buy in all of those games that I just mentioned, but that's not the biggest component of the game. It's like a good game on its own that doesn't have to have anything extra to make it great.
Well, I mean, that travels back to DLC now, I mean... I'm lucky enough that I feel like I saw gaming before, the concept of the game not being the full game when you get it, and it's not anymore. Now every game you get, like when you buy a game, whether it's digital, whether it's physical, doesn't matter. That game's incomplete, more or less. There will be more to that game down the road, even if you beat it that day. Like, there's going to be more. So, yeah, I feel lucky that I got to see a side of games where, like, the games relied. Games had no choice but to be good. Because if they weren't going to be good, they were going to be forgotten. There was going to be nothing to bring them back. No patches, no DLC things. Like, as much as you like games like, No Man's Sky got a lot better as time goes by.
That's like the best recovery story of all time.
And it's a great recovery story, but
yeah.
Back in the day, there was no such thing as recovery stories.
Nah.
You had one shot and had to be... At best, you might have a weird bug that you can patch out. They had to do that with... I remember they had to do that with No Mercy back in the day. I want to say even Skyward Sword for the Wii had some kind of weird, like, issue. But, yeah, like, you had to be good right out the gate, or people were going to know how bad you were.
We got a comment in the comments here. A lot of these AAA companies want to jump on it, oversaturate the ground, and whenever they can tell these projects are soulless. So there's a lot of people that think the same way. That's where they're suggesting that indie games are becoming way more popular because people are putting love back into the games,
and that's us. Like that game Trepang Squared, only a 5-man team, and I'm having way more fun with that first-person shooter than any Call of Duty game I can think on record. And you can just tell when you play these games. You can feel the soul. There's nothing to hide. Here's the game. Play it.
Yeah.
Nothing kills a buzz. I actually did this today. What was I playing? Because of my PC crashing, I had to reboot. I had to restart Halo.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing that with a friend right now, and even just like logging into that, all this like extra steps, these hoops, and then you get like shots with, we're introducing this new color of Spartan armor. Do you want to take a look at it? No, click. Just to get there. With a lot of indie games, it's not like that. It's just, here's the game. Start game, load game, options, exit.
Enjoy game.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly you want to play a video game and have fun. Here you go.
Here you go. 100%.
And it's a time, like I'm not going to get mad at it because I think it's a system that's got to implode on itself. You're already seeing it. You see, and the social media scene is making it really exact. So now when a game is really bad, we all know it's really bad. Gollum, for example. To truth be told, though, that's an example of a game like I've almost considered buying Gollum a couple times. I'm not gonna lie, just because it's so infamous bad. I got Superman 64, so when a game like that comes out that is actually just like a game, you're gonna know about it one way or another, whether it's a good kind of bad or just a bad kind of bad.
Imagine if E.T. was released today.
Say, speaking of remakes, let's get an E.T.
That's what we need.
going.
That's what we need. The E.T. remake, the landfill edition.
Oh man, I want to see some more. I kind of saw that with the Atari collection, but I want to see just AAA remakes. I want to see a AAA remake of Vanguard. Yeah, all right, with whatever the game engine it was for Final Fantasy 16. Just make a Vanguard with that.
I want to see downscaling games. So we have a AAA polish game, and then they downscale it so it's just way more playable, higher frame rate. Just not trying to add all this extra jingle bells and that to the game. Just make it a bit more fun and more, just fun to play.
The only downscaled game, well, no, I'm gonna call it downscaled. It was a birthday gift a while. It's just a ROM hack, but it's the NES version of Final Fantasy VII.
Mm.
Yeah. Plays a lot like Final Fantasy 1, just with Final Fantasy 7 graphics.
Yeah, sometimes worse graphics are better movement.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, you sometimes saw a lot of that in the Super Nintendo Sega Genesis war, because Genesis had a faster processor, but Super Nintendo had a wider range of color. Mm. So you would see kind of maybe games that would look like they have worse graphics, but games that look like they have better graphics, depending on what part they really relied on.
Well, I'm going to finish you with a comment here from the live feed. If you've got some more comments, add them in. But the way that he sees this is burgers, right? Do you think games are burgers? Okay, yeah, everyone knows that McDonald's makes a good, cheap burger, but a lot of people will get a nicer gourmet burger from a local spot, but it's a little bit more pricey.
Oh, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I've had expensive hamburgers from places that tasted like shit. And there's been times in my life where I've bitten into a Big Mac, and it was the best tasting thing at that moment at that time, depending on the situation. Yeah, you know what I mean? Night and your friends, You're hungry.
No, you're not wrong, because I do think, for example, Borderlands 2 is a game that I much love, but I played
Borderlands. Still good,
but I played it like 5 seconds after I finished Borderlands 1, and I think I was all Borderlands out. And by the time I got halfway through Borderlands 2, I was kind of over the game, even though I know it was such a more competent game than Borderlands 1. So depending on what frame of mind or mood that you're in when you get onto these games can also change what it is. So, yeah, for example, there's a whole lot of woke kind of stuff in the media at the moment. And then you get a game like the Suicide Squad that kind of is trying to be on that trail. It doesn't matter which way you feel about it, but they've tried to grab onto something that maybe everyone doesn't care if they do grab onto it, instead of worrying about what game they're making. So you have games that try to steal from what's happening in culture or society at the moment, which is nice, but it's not necessarily going to sometimes it can backfire on the game, or sometimes it can promote the game. So that's risks that you take when you're making these games as well, I guess.
Doing something radical, something inspired, something that no one's ever done before is always a major risk. Doing something that everyone else does can also be a major risk. It can be. And you see that a lot, I mean, there are good live service games. There are live service games that I do believe that you do get what you give into the game. I believe it's fair. Most of these are free. Most of them are multiplayer focused. Not single player campaign storyline focused, but more multiplayer focused. Even Destiny, and I like Destiny, but Destiny kind of had a very, just an open kind of story to it. I really can't even tell you the actual story, but I can tell you the side stuff. So trying to shoehorn, Kill the Justice League, main problem in my eye wasn't just the live service-ness about it. It's the fact that it was a single-player game in a live service model. That killed it. That was them trying to have their cake and eat it too. They saw the live service model making some money, and to be fair, even though they followed it, they did try to change it up by including single-player for it. But there was sometimes a reason why people don't do something is because it doesn't work. And I think that's what that is. It just goes to show you, I mean, follow not too closely, yes, lest your teeth get dashed out by the heels, in a term. So just got to be careful with that.
Okay, so the most, on a live service game that I found integrated the best as a single player game. Now, this game was not it was only a single player game with live service components to the game. Okay, is Death Stranded. When you play that game, it's a live service game, but it's only a single player game. And when you play through the game, you'll find that some other person by a gamer tag had got to the top of this mountain, and so you could try and in this amount of time. So then you could try and beat them in that time, which was a kind of, I don't know. It didn't take away but it added that little bit to the game. You know what I mean?
To say, I mean, that's more or less just a ghost.
Yeah,
that's playing San Francisco Rush. See someone else's track. I mean, maybe it is live service in that regard. In fact, I want to say, doesn't Elden Ring do something similar to that? If I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. I've never played that.
I played it for a second, and in that second, I didn't turn off the thing just so you play by yourself, and there were 5 people just running around. They were kind of transparent. Someone wants to clarify. It scared me, and I was just I'll play this some other time, and I haven't played it since. But if it's something like that, that's not a big deal.
Yeah, I don't mind those little bits. But that's about where I'm at with live service. And it is sad about the job losses.
That's more of a social thing in my mind. You're not getting new content or anything like that. You're just It kind of reminds me of the Miiverse. If anyone remembers the Miiverse from the Wii U, especially on Mario Maker, where you could just like write things in certain different games, things like that. It was a really cool service. I liked it and I used it. It kind of reminds me of that.
So yeah, I think that could be that's okay. Anyway, I wanted to move on from this and get to Control, the game Control. Now, Remedy has control of Control because, well, that was a lovely pun. Remedy is the company that developed Control, and so they've bought it back off the publishers, and so now they have the rights to publish the game. They did the same thing with Alan Wake, and then that sparked. They bought Alan Wake back from their publishers in 2019, and then that's when Alan Wake 2 was developed so many years later, because they mustn't have been happy with how the game got published or whatever, who knows what. But this company Remedy now has quite a couple of good games to it, so it might start becoming a decent kind of studio, and that kind of thing. It's got Alan Wake.
It makes you wonder, would you rather them push out a new IP or would you rather them release a sequel to Control?
Well, they talked about the sequel to Control already. They bought it for £17 million or euros, 70 million euros. And they talking about going into building Control 2 and potentially other Control games, more Alan Wake games. So yeah, they want to build franchises off this. So
absolutely. I mean, Control was well received. Alan Wake, and especially Alan Wake 2, was very well received. The only thing that kind of stinks is that Max Payne ain't going anywhere outside of Rockstar's yard. They're there forever. Plus, now, especially with the voice actor of Max Payne passing, I don't think we'll ever really see a Max Payne 4, which is a shame. But I am happy that Remedy got control of Control.
It's all Control.
And if they can push through with Control. All I'm gonna say to this is, please, if you're making Control through, make a physical copy, please. This one, all right. It doesn't need to be like a big graphical powerhouse. Just keep it within the parameters of a Blu-ray disc. Thank you.
I just think that's a really interesting technique kind of thing. So I go and release my game, and then I get someone to publish it, which means that they're going to take 25-30% of the game profits, right? But I still make the other part of it from the game. So then I sit back, they do all the work, and then once the game's pretty popular as Control is, I go, hey, I've got all this money you've given me from making the game. Now I want my game back. It's an interesting strategy for releasing a game, kind of, when you think about it, because now they've got the two quite big or reasonably sized franchises. And if they can keep building those franchises up, it'll be quite a big kind of company, Remedy. Xbox will be knocking on the door anytime soon, I would say.
But like you said, I do want to see them come out with a new IP, though. Like, Control's good. Control's like, it's a female protagonist, very popular. Alan Wake 2 also has a female protagonist, but that's Alan Wake. That's kind of its own universe now. So I think a brand new IP.
They did that. What was the other one that was Xbox exclusive? Quantum Break, was it? They did that as well, I think.
Yeah, I didn't play that because it looked like it had a lot of FMV to me. And while, FMV can work, it kind of takes me out of the game now when I see, like, real actors doing real things.
No, it's actually quite a good game. Like, I've only played it halfway through.
I heard the story was good, too. I heard the story was decent.
And it had a nice mechanic. You can see those games that they've got in their stable of their production house. Like they're very similar ideas and kind of different tangents on all the same idea, but they've got the same kind of thought process that it's helped them build those games. So I like it when a studio does similar types of games, because then I can go from one game to the next game to the next game, and oh yeah, they made this. I know what I'm expecting.
But they'll always change that one button in the controller to make you go, ooh. This is...
Alan Wake would never do that. So, yeah, that's interesting. We got another message in the comments. Personally, studios don't give games enough long enough to settle in. That's another good point as well. That
yeah, I mean, I get that. And Alan Wake 2 is new enough, so it's not like they have to get working on a new IP now. So what is a good resting period between sequels? Not remakes, but sequels.
I think about, say, 3 years. Because hear me out. You've got year one where you're selling the game for mostly, and I was thinking about this actually in regards to sale price on games, because I was looking through the PlayStation sales, and I see that same games, same sale price, but what happens is year one, games will go on sale for like 25% off for the whole year. Year two, games will go on sale for 50% for the whole year. Year three, games will go on sale for like 75% off. And then, bang, new game. And then they do it all over again. So 3 years, I think, is where they're at.
I mean, I can't imagine, especially, okay, Call of Duty, for example. Let's just take a random Call of Duty. Let's say Call of Duty Advanced Warfare.
Yes.
No, not Advanced. Infinite Warfare. Let's say Infinite Warfare. Just a random Call of Duty game. Do people still play it? Because they crank out these Call of Duty games every year. So I'm sure if a Call of Duty game is especially really good, people might still show some interest into it, even after years later. But a game like that, does anyone still is that too quick? Do they have time to actually like hold on to a game, or at that point it's just like the service, the franchise itself, just one game?
Well, okay, if we're going to use Call of Duty for an example, they've got like Call of Duty, the new one, Modern Warfare 3, and then they had before that Modern Warfare 2. Was that what they did? Anyway, I noticed I play Modern Warfare 3 from time to time, and I went on there the other day, and I could play the Modern Warfare 2 maps now. They just got included to the Modern Warfare 3. So they're doing it in a way to keep the old game alive for a bit longer by incorporating the new players, giving them access to the old stuff, because they've still got all the same assets and stuff in the game. All the same models are there. They're just in different arrangements. So it's not like you have to download a whole new, like all that much more stuff to get this from this Modern Warfare to that Modern Warfare, especially on the multiplayer maps.
One game I remember doing something similar to that was the Time Splitters trilogy. Like the first Time Splitters came out, then when the second one came out, it was different storyline, different missions, different story missions, but a lot of the multiplayer maps from the first game would be in there. All the music from Time Splitters 1 would be in Time Splitters 2. I want to say all the character models, like down to the henchmen, like the people that you're fighting, just like the regular like NPCs, are in Time Splitters 2 as well. And not only that, but I think that always continued into the third Time Splitters game when that came out, that they had all the Time Splitters 1, 2 music, like all the characters, stuff like that. So in a way, what you're saying, that's what that reminds me of.
But I think, and then if you go into Call of Duty again, they've got the Warzone part of that, which is the free section. But it's also, you have to do that via, like they only update that every 4 or 5 years. And so when I log into my account with my Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, I'm still playing Modern Warfare players that have been playing for years on the same maps, because they've just kind of rolled that over and over. I'm not really sure that they should be releasing one every year. I think they're kind of at the point now where every second year would probably suit a lot better, but they want the cash grab. Speaking of which, Phil Spencer did say that it's going to release on Game Pass day one, the new one, so it could reinvigorate the whole people getting out there with their guns and shooting some stuff.
You know what? Maybe I'll even give it a go.
Well, what is it now? What's it cost you for a Call of Duty game? Like $70 or something?
Yeah, it's gotta. People pay for it. People buy it.
Yeah. I wonder what Microsoft do with that though, because they might change how quickly it repeats its cycle from sequel to sequel. I think the
Future
whole
holds on that one.
Yeah, the disappointing thing about the Activision part was Games for Bob got bought into Activision, and then they got all moved onto the Call of Duty development team. So then games like Spyro and the like fell by the wayside because they were, all the developers were doing something else. I think that's what the problem is with Microsoft buying companies, buying development studios, or Activision, or whoever it was buying these companies. If you've got a more important franchise, some of the lesser franchises are going to fall away if you keep combining everything together.
I mean, franchises fall. You know, that's always happened. What's a big franchise? Every decade of gaming has an unstoppable juggernaut on a franchise that just ain't around now. You know, I don't want to say Pal World, because Pal World was a juggernaut for a couple days. But, you know, eventually, castles made of sand, you know what I mean? Just not everything lasts forever. Even the franchises that have been big for so long, like Call of Duty, how long are they got to really last? Are they got to be significant in 10 years?
I think so. They've been around since the 90s. It's the quintessential shooter game. Like, it's the game that everyone wants to be. I think the one that fell by the wayside was Medal of Honor. I don't know if Battlefield can recover. That game's just about dead.
I love that series so damn much. There was nothing like that when it came out. I never played anything like that when it came on PS1. It's just such a real, wow, this is World War II looking, feeling, sounding, shooting. It was a revelation. A little harsh to go back to now. It hasn't aged especially well, but the music has aged. It's still beautiful music. But that's a franchise I kind of wish would still have some clout. They try to go modern. They followed, like how we said, they followed the current things and they got trampled from it.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, well, I think it's that time of the night where we call it a quits.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just if we're gonna wrap up a bow though, real quick on the remakes. Like I said, so far the remakes I've played have been great, but I just hope they don't have as much of a negative impact on the industry as, admittedly, you've kind of drilled into me. It may have. I look out to that. But yeah, again, thanks for having me on, man. I was glad to talk to you.
Yeah, it's good time. And if you want us to do something for the following weeks, write in the comments something topics. We love new topics. So
favorite Sega Saturn games.
That do not say that. And if we talk about Mega Man one more time,